last video, we asked whether blockchain is truly decentralized. Because if it isn't, then what makes it different from a database? And if we accept claims of decentralization in blockchains outside Bitcoin, then we must ask how this is possible, given all other blockchain projects have owners and administrators who steer the business of their blockchain. Proponents of blockchain and cryptos beyond Bitcoin argue management is not via a central authority, but a distributed community. But what does this mean exactly? In the simplest of terms, it means they reach a community consensus in their decision-making processes. But how exactly is this consensus made? And here's where it can get a little tricky. We go to the Ethereum story and why we have two, Ethereum and Ethereum Classic.
Ethereum was technically founded by 8 people in December 2013. This group of 8 included Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson and Polkadot founder Gavin Wood. Less than a year after Ethereum launched, its developer community started discussing the possibility of creating the first ever decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO for short. The idea was simple but powerful. People would pool their ETH into a smart contract, and in exchange, they would get a token that gave them voting rights for how that pooled money should be spent. This would make it possible to fund things like decentralized applications, new cryptocurrencies being built on Ethereum, and marketing campaigns. The DAO was created by a German startup called Slock in June 2016, and within a month of launching, over $150 million worth of ETH had been deposited into the DAO smart contract. This is where things get a bit technical, so pay close attention. Since it was likely that not everyone would be on board with how the ETH in the DAO should be spent, the DAO devs added something called a split function to the DAO smart contract. The split function made it possible for anyone to deposit their voting tokens in exchange for the ETH they had initially deposited into the DAO smart contract. This reclaimed ETH could be transferred to a personal wallet or used to create another DAO called a child DAO to crowdfund a different Ethereum project with like-minded individuals. In both cases, the reclaimed ETH would be locked up for 28 days and would not be spendable during that period. Shortly before the launch of the DAO, many developers had pointed out that this split function had a bug that could be exploited to steal the ETH locked in the DAO smart contract. Interestingly, the developers behind the DAO insisted that no such risk was present. On June 17, 2016, an anonymous hacker drained $50 million worth of ETH from the DAO smart contract, equal to about 5% of all the ETH in circulation at that time. Ouch. The way he or she was able to do this was by repeatedly using the split function to claim more ETH with the same voting tokens. Now, interestingly, the hacker could have drained all the funds, but didn't. With 28 days before that stolen ETH became spendable, Ethereum's developers were left with a dilemma. Do we modify the Ethereum blockchain or not? Now, the majority, including Vitalik Buterin and Gavin Wood, voted to fork the Ethereum blockchain to reverse the hack, arguing that the damage of not doing so would be too great. A small minority of people argued that Ethereum should not be forked because code is law. Rolling back the blockchain would be analogous to the government bailing out the banks during the 2008 financial crisis, which is the exact thing that inspired Satoshi Nakamoto to create Bitcoin. Now, the anonymous hacker even wrote an open letter arguing that the ETH was rightfully theirs because all they did was use the split function's faulty code to their benefit. It was fair game. Ethereum forked on the 20th of July 2016, creating 2 separate blockchains. The Ethereum chain, where the DAO hack never happened, and the Ethereum Classic chain, where the ETH remains stolen for better or for worse.
Author of the Bitcoin Standard, Safety Namus, gives a short summary as to the consequence. Ethereum developers created a new version of Ethereum where this inconvenient mistake never occurred, confiscating the attacker's funds and distributing them to his victims. This re-injection of subjective human management is at odds with the objective of making code into law and questions the entire rationale of smart contracts. The concentration of currency holding, processing power, and programming skills in the hands of one group of people who are effectively partners in a venture defeats the entire purpose of employing a blockchain structure. Should the currencies appreciate significantly, a small team of creators will become extremely rich and endowed with the power to collect seigniorage, a role for nation-states in this modern world. It would be relatively easy for central banks to get any of the teams behind this currency to destroy it or alter its operation. Given the DAO debacle, we can say blockchains outside Bitcoin are not immutable, are not tamper-proof, and are not decentralized. The most they can claim is that they are peer-to-peer with no need for intermediaries, the phenomenon known as disintermediation, which will be the real contribution of non-Bitcoin blockchains. More on this on a later video. To understand further why other blockchains and alts aren't truly decentralized, we need to understand why Bitcoin is the only one that can truthfully make this claim. No person or organization can willingly create new Bitcoins or decide how it's distributed. The Bitcoin protocol, proof of work, controls the creation and distribution of new Bitcoins. Even Bitcoin development has no centralized control. Bitcoin grew in the wilds of the internet for years without any authority controlling it. Satoshi has chosen to remain incognito, and its initial developer, Hal Finney, passed away. Bitcoin developed while no one was looking. In its early days, when the tokens had little or no value, the network could have been conceivably hijacked and destroyed by attackers. But as the network had little economic value, nobody bothered. And as time goes by, it becomes increasingly difficult to alter the record, as the energy needed is larger than the energy already expended. It costs ever-increasing quantities of electricity and processing power to record transactions. To try to commit fraudulent transactions to the Bitcoin ledger is to deliberately waste resources. What prevents a majority from colluding to be dishonest is that if they were to succeed in compromising the integrity of the ledger transactions, the entire value proposition of Bitcoin would be destroyed, and the Bitcoin token's value would collapse to nothing. Fraud is far costlier than its rewards. To compromise and destroy Bitcoin, an attacker needs to expend very large sums of money with no return at all. And so Bitcoin is a technology that converts electricity to truthful records through the expenditure of processing power. The defense of the Bitcoin network is not just that attacking it has become expensive, but that the attack succeeding renders the attacker's loot worthless, as the value of its token is entirely dependent on the integrity of the network. And all this was achieved when no one was looking. Other blockchains are under the radar of so much hype and noise because Bitcoin had done it already, and people already have the knowledge, awareness, and experience of the potentials and possibilities. But decentralization isn't everything. It isn't the only thing significant in the crypto blockchain space. There are other aspects of the technology that will change the current in terms of the way we work, interact, exchange and create value, communicate and live. Until the next video, ex pace ubertas, from Peace Plenty. Exitus.